And now, your feature presentation.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to trailer reaction, which is kind of a part 2 to the 100th episode of the Untitled Movie Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rorabeck, alongside he's allergic to tomatoes, but he is tomato meter approved, Eric Marchen. You got to bring your mic into frame.
Incredible. Just incredible.
So we're doing this. This is weird. Maybe we'll put this up on podcast services as episode 101 because that would be really funny too. We should do that actually. But we're kind of doing a first ever kind of trailer reaction thing on YouTube as well because we, surprise, surprise, we have a YouTube page now where you can listen and watch episodes of the Entitled Movie Podcast and all of our reviews. We should have a Shang-Chi review up right now that you guys can check out. But right now we are going to react or give our first impressions or just chat about the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer because ironically and just it's so perfect and funnily enough, we were waiting at the end of our 100th draft of the Untitled Movie Podcast, which you can go listen to and watch right here on YouTube and on podcast services. We kind of joked and we're like, it's probably going to drop tonight because of the leak. We talked about the leak. CinemaCon panel was happening and we're like, they're probably going to drop it tonight. And we're like, let's wait around. We were like, we can't just sit here and just wait for the trailer. So we ended, and of course, right as I was posting it, like I finished edited the audio, the video one's not even up, the trailer dropped. So we thought, you know what, episode 101, Eric, why not?
Or 100.1 or 0.5 or something like that.
But then it'll ruin all the thing on the. I'm so anal when it comes to like episode numbers on the podcast. I can't have it say 102 and then it actually be episode 101. So
anyways, 101 and a half.
We're already off track. Let's talk about the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. We just watched it live together. After what seems like an eternity of talking about this thing and the rumors of what's in this movie and what it's about, multiverse stuff, who was cast in the movie. I think we got a couple big confirmations. Eric, I don't know where you want to start, but like we can start at the end. Alfred Molina, you said he looked sickly. Did he look sickly in the actual trailer to you?
Yes, he does. You can
tell.
It's okay, but it looks like what you'd expect motion capture to look like in terms of that photorealism, but also maybe still getting that uncanny valley kind of quality of
why? Because you think they're de-aging him, right?
Yes, yes, and he talked about that too, about the Irishman specifically, and I feel that for people that criticize the Irishman, which I think that is a very fair criticism, I think that from that look, it looks strange to me because like the hair specifically, it almost looks like when you see an older person who's still dyeing their hair or their beard, hence Nicolas Cage
or whatever.
And that they're that they've gone gray, and it kind of looks like that a little bit. And I don't know if that is.
I'm looking at him right now, like I'm skimming through the trailer as we're talking. I don't mind. I'll play it in real time to see how it looks in motion because like when it's freeze framed, like I don't hate it. But maybe that's just my excitement right now of like, I mean, just seeing the Doc Ock kind of tentacle come out and him come up and like I don't see what you're saying. Like I don't think it looks that bad when it comes to like how he looks. Like it doesn't look that.
It might work in the context of the film a little bit better, but there is something that to me that does look a little off.
And I get that. Basically, the trailer starts, we get, Peter dealing with the aftermath of, Mysterio revealing his identity. It seems like, New York has turned on him. Everyone knows his identity. He's kind of having a tough time with, the police and media attention and at his school. And, it's a classic actually storyline that they deal with in the Civil War comic books, I think, is like Peter Parker, when he has to choose sides in Civil War, ultimately has to reveal his identity. And I think in the comics as well, he goes to Doctor Strange to try to do this exact thing. I could be wrong on that. I'm like, again, it's been a while, and but I'm pretty sure that's
like
exactly
Stain?
What happens.
It's been a while.
So it's interesting now using that here. And then so you see Peter kind of get the idea after he sees a Halloween witch like light thing, that he's like, oh, I can go to Doctor Strange. And I love him going there, and that it's winter, so there's snow everywhere because of where the Hulk fell through in Infinity War or Endgame.
Infinity War at the beginning of
Infinity War.
Infinity War, because they're still on Thor's ship, right? While it's being
Yes,
attacked by Thanos.
Yeah, so you go to him, and Peter talks to Doctor Strange and asks him to get people to, remove everyone's memory, essentially, that no one will remember.
He's wearing a
Peter
sweet
Parker
hoodie
is,
and what almost looks like a coat version of his costume, Doctor Strange.
Yes, that's incredible. I just saw that now. Or he's wearing the cape over like a puffy jacket.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
But it almost looks like a custom version coat of his uniform, because the coat has like the red and blue kind of look, and then he has like a hoodie that he's
but I
wearing
think it's just
well.
a blue coat with the red cape, because the cape went over it, right? Like I'm looking at it now, but the hoodie is amazing. He's wearing track pants or whatever. He has a coffee and he's putting a fire on. Which is super dope.
Is the joke supposed to be that Doctor Strange is poor?
I don't know.
Or that
I think it's just he's cold and cozy because he has this giant hole.
If the hole, wouldn't they have
why can't he fix it?
Yeah.
And couldn't he have just time twisted it? Or maybe he doesn't have the time stone anymore, right?
Yeah.
But so there is a shot where it looks like Peter at a unhoused people shelter, at a shelter, and he has the black kind of, I think there's rumors that it might be like a Doctor Strange kind of multiverse jumping costume, but it's kind of black with a larger symbol. And I know there's a company, what is this called in the comics, that I think Mr. Negative runs, and I think he's part of this. Let me just pull that up. Mr. Negative Spider-Man, because I played it in the video games and I forget what he runs, but you can see that, and I think that's supposed to be a part of the movie. You see, it's surprising how easily New York turned on him, and how easily Doctor Strange is like, yeah, I'll do this really messed up kind of thing.
I'm not going to listen to what Wong has to say.
Like, always listen to Wong, bro. Like, I guess that's like playing into the, the ego of, Stephen Strange, which I think is kind of interesting, because like it doesn't seem like something after the events of like Endgame and Infinity War that he would just be like, great idea, Peter, let's do that. Like, let's do this crazy spell that's going to erase people's memories and stuff like that, and so
possibly tamper with time and space as we know it.
Yeah, and doesn't he already know from the first Doctor Strange movie that that's not a good idea to tamper with that stuff? So like that's a little interesting how it's played off in the trailer of like a wink, like, oh, I'm not going to do that to Wong, and then winks at Peter. I'm like, I think you should take this a little bit more seriously, and maybe
it's almost like when your parents leave and then you like get ready to have a party.
Yeah, but I'm like, is that the Doctor Strange that we know? Like, he's just like, well, I saw the millions of different possibilities from Endgame, so I'm cool. I can mess with things now.
Well, he even says in the trailer that people don't know, or he's unfamiliar with the multiverse. Like, there's not a lot known about it.
They don't know nothing about it, right? So Feast is the company that I'm talking about in Spider-Man, which is the Food Emergency and Shelter Training, which is owned by Martin Lee, who is Mr. Negative, who May Parker works for. So we kind of saw that a bit in the second Spider-Man movie as well. You get to see Happy Hogan with some snipers on him. You get to see Doctor Strange kind of opening up the multiverse to try and help Peter, and then kind of Peter second guessing his decision and kind of messing it up. Which is kind of cool. And then you get a lot of the visuals that we've gotten in Doctor Strange, which is kind of that, Inception like city folding. You see a subway train sequence, which is, I think kind of a wink at some of the other Spider-Man movies that we're going to reference in this movie, right? But then you're kind of intertwining it with the Doctor Strange kind of Inception city twisting kind of stuff. And then the two big reveals here, right? Like, you get the Green Goblin pumpkin bomb, and with what seems like the Willem Dafoe like Green Goblin
cackle.
Laugh. Yeah, cackle. That's a great word, Eric. Cackle. And exploding on the bridge in New York, and then you get the big reveal of Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. So, and then it says December 17th.
Well, he
and
also
then there's
says
a PlayStation controller.
he also says Peter, and the way that the trailer is cut, it then cuts to Tom Holland. So it makes you wonder if that is a deceiving cut, and if Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man may play a role there.
So I think they're smart in, you know, they got to give audiences something. Everyone knows about Alfred Molina because he's literally openly talked about it. So you kind of have to put him there. The Willem Dafoe thing, people keep asking him, and he's like, I'm not going to talk about future projects or whatever.
We'll talk about it when the time comes.
Out. Yeah. And then now it seems like the time comes. Weirdly, we don't get any Jamie Foxx, right? And we know that's kind of confirmed as well. And you don't get any of the other Spider-Man or Mary Janes or
just the idea of what the storyline is going to be past, you know, Parker trying to get his
clear his name,
hide his identity again,
literally
right?
clear his name. Yeah.
So like what is going to, because obviously like when you think of like a lot of like television writing, and we've talked about, you know, Marvel taking the televisual approach to things in both, you know, the cinematography and in the writing, usually storylines like that lead to something else. So, you know, the starting point is, okay, I you know, I'm in a bit of a pickle here where I need, you know, to be anonymous again. And in order to do so, I'm coming to Doctor Strange to, you know, have everybody's memory erased of my true identity and hide that. But then the snafu happens where, you know, Peter kind of going back on that and negating that, and the decision kind of has repercussions. And so now they have to fix, you know, this timeline that it's clearly having sort of a convergence on these other overlapping worlds that we have been getting rumors that, okay, like, you know, is this going to include both the Garfield and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man from Spider-Man Past? Are we going to get people like Daredevil popping up? Is
Kirsten
Dunst, Emma Stone? Are we going to get more villains? Is it going to do something with kind of almost like a makeshift Sinister Six with characters that have been introduced already within the world? And like, who's the villain? And who really is who is the main villain here? Because
Doc Ock, I guess.
I would say Green Goblin. It almost feels like Norman Osborn would be the guy to,
and he would be a big character in the MCU if you introduce him, right? Like maybe they signed Dafoe on for, you know, multiple movies and he's coming back as the Norman Osborn in the MCU. Although that would be, I like, again, I got chills at one point watching it. I love the first, Spider-Man, not the first one in the MCU. I love the Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi trilogy as well. And then it'll be interesting. We talked about in our Shang-Chi review, again, shameless plug, go listen to that, go watch that right now, of how you can kind of take things from the past and kind of make them something fresh and new, or kind of build on the past and things like that. And I'm like really curious to see how this is going to work and how you're going to make that work. And it's exciting when you think of it as a concept of like, we're at a point where you could get everyone who's ever, we've poked fun at how many different Spider-Man reboots we got, and we might get them all in one movie, or villains at least from each era of Spider-Man in one movie.
But who's the villain in Holland's world? Because they really haven't established that either yet. Is like Mysterio going to come back, or is Michael Keaton going to pop up again? I mean, obviously Keaton is in the trailer for Morbius.
You gotta think Keaton's in it, or like, and Marvel's done a pretty good job at like keeping things kind of, you know, things have leaked obviously, and some things are confirmed in this trailer, and like
some people like Alfred Molina talk.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna see Maguire or Garfield in any marketing if they're in the movie. Like, I think even if everyone says, of course they're in the movie, you know, his stunt person was on set, yada yada yada. Like I really don't think that they're gonna show them, and they still want that moment for in theaters. I think they're in the movie. I think they are. But like I at this point they're doing enough to make me doubt that they are.
Well, it's misdirection, and Marvel's
yeah.
known for that when it comes to their trailers, to the point where they'll have
Replace
footage
assets.
Yeah,
and
that's not even in the film. And
Yeah.
so, you know, like, I mean, I think it would be disappointing for people at this point to think like, okay, you know, they have this build up in their head that, okay, these people are going to be in it, and if they don't show up, you know, you're going to have disappointed fans. But at the same time, Marvel never promised any of that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that it's all been online rumors and speculation. So, you know, you have to kind of consider, you know, it's not your narrative to write. It's the writers and the filmmaker and John Watts and so, like, I think expectations always have to be in check, but at the same time, you know, I think that what we've seen in this teaser is enough to confirm that, okay, some of these things are true. And it's like what Kevin Feige said, like, you know, some of these things are true, but it's also kind of unfortunate that it's been spoiled for people in one way or another. And
yeah, imagine we didn't know any of this and just saw this trailer.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I mean, we're talking about our bubble. We talk about this on the 100th draft, which is totally out of date already, but you guys can go listen to it. There's a lot of good stuff there that's not necessarily, and I think it's a fun time capsule thing. But we talk about the bubble of like film Twitter and people who are really into the marketing and the MCU. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people who are kind of not in that hardcore area that will be, maybe it will go over their heads too. Well, they'll be like, didn't that guy play Doc Ock back in like the 2000s with the other Spider-Man? Like, I don't know how it's going to play with everyone, but I think the hardcore fans expected this. And another thing we brought up was CM Punk returning on AEW in the 100th draft. And that kind of feels like that, where everyone knew it was happening. It leaked everywhere, but it was still such a cool moment when you finally got to see it happen. And that's how I'm thinking about all of this. When I see Doc Ock pop up there, or when I saw the pumpkin bomb roll onto the street, I was like, oh, fuck, that's awesome. Like, I can't believe this is actually happening. And for being Spider-Man being my favorite superhero, like flat out my favorite superhero, Batman being like a close, probably number 2, growing up, and still to this day, that like I was obsessed with those Sam Raimi movies when they Sam Raimi movies when they came out. And like I feel like they ushered in, like, X-Men, it was a lot of that as well, but the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies just felt totally special, and just felt like I'll never have something quite like that trilogy of movies, and the ups and downs, and just going to those midnight showings. So to have that come again full circle, which is again something we brought up in Shang-Chi, I'm just gonna plug everything else we're doing, I think is really, really cool. And it might not work, it might be way too much, it might be way too early, it might be completely messy, or not really make sense of why they're putting them in this universe and things like that. But the multiverse stuff we saw in Loki, we saw a little bit in WandaVision, like,
and this is also probably going to lead into Doctor
Multiverse
Strange,
of Madness,
which is also being directed by Sam Raimi. So again, all coming full
you gotta
circle.
think Tobey Maguire is in this movie, and he will be in Multiverse of Madness. I'm calling that now. Like, it's got to. I mean, if he's not, I'm not going to be someone who's disappointed, but like, you got to think that he's in both of those movies.
Yeah, I mean, I know he was also just recently cast in Damien Chazelle's Babylon. So, but I'm sure that's a smaller role, and I mean, now he's probably able to fit it all in. But yeah, you would. I mean, like, the one thing you can guarantee with Doctor Strange for sure is that Bruce Campbell will be in that. But it's just also funny. It makes me think of the, like, and this also connects. I think a big reason why this movie also exists is because of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I think without that movie, this might not have happened as quickly as it is. They probably would have gotten to it at some point, but it almost feels like because Spider-Verse did so well and the concept was so innovative, especially when you have people like Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and the reason why I'm also referencing them, if you have Garfield and Tom Holland and Tobey Maguire all in this movie as speculated, it kind of reminds me at the end of 21 Jump Street, where you have all those Jump Street sequels, and then you have Jump Street Generations, and then you have all the original TV cast members photoshopped with their heads, floating heads with Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, and that's kind of what it reminds me of. Good. Spider-Man Generations.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I'm all in on that. Thank you all for listening to this little experiment that we're doing here, which was just because we recorded a 2-hour and 20-minute podcast, episode 100. Where we were like, maybe the trailer will drop during the show, like at 9 p.m. And it did not. It dropped at 10 p.m. But we thought we'd do something cool and different, a little 20 minutes on the trailer. I thought this was a fun convo with Eric. I think it's timed really perfectly with the 100th episode with the Shang-Chi review on our new YouTube channel. So you guys can check out all of that stuff. And on podcast services, Untitled Movie Podcast is where you'll get the main show, Untitled Movie Reviews, ton of reviews, and it'll all be right here on YouTube. Check us out on Letterboxd, Untitled Podcast, on all other social medias at Untitled_cast. And as always, you can follow me on all of those social medias at Matt Rorabeck.
And I'm Eric Marchen. You can find more of my video reviews at rogerstv.com/cinemascene and on the social medias at EM6211.
Until next time.
Don't tell Harry.
I'm the Rhino.